Alright, welcome back to the program. This week, Paul and I are at Nationals Park. It is May 28th, 2014, and we're here to see the Marlins and Nats play, our two favorite teams in our favorite ballpark. Our guest this week is none other than the Blue Danube himself, Mr. Rich Waltz of Fox Sports Florida. But first, I'm Steve Miller.
And I'm Paul Fritchner.
And this is The Top Step.
People will come, Ray.
That's what I want to find out, the guy's name.
I'm telling you, who's on first, what's on second, I don't know who's on third.
You're killing me, Smalls.
There's no crying in baseball. Gone, and the Nationals win it. What? That is the worst call that I have ever seen.
Ray Bambino.
I'm on the ball, okay?
Fly ball left field deep.
That guy was a bro.
It says here they're only available in South America.
All right, Spencer, we're down by one. Just get on base.
Yes.
I mean, the guy's name.
Who?
The guy playing first.
Who?
The guy playing first base. Who?
Black and tan.
Let's go Bucks.
Ball game. Walk off. Grand slam. I was safe by a yard, and you know it. Here comes Stanton. It's a no-hitter. Henderson. Track. Deep left field. Going. It's gone. Beckett picks it up. Tags Posada, and the Florida Marlins are world champions.
We're back in The Top Step. As I said before, our guest this week is Rich Waltz. He's the play-by-play commentator for the Marlins on Fox Sports Florida, and he's been working with Tommy Hutton, a former Major League Baseball player who's the color commentator. They've been working together since 2005, and that's about the time frame that I first started picking up on the Marlins. So Rich Waltz has been the voice of the Marlins as long as I've been a fan, really, of the team. One thing that we're going to talk to him about is an interesting call that he had with Tommy Hutton when Dan Uggla was the second baseman of the Marlins. Dan Uggla's last name is spelled Uggla, and when he first came up, I guess a lot of people in the baseball media world did not quite know how to pronounce his name, and they would say really everything but Uggla. And at a point, Rich Waltz and Tommy Hutton started saying his name is Dan Uggla to anyone and everyone who mispronounced it. And as it turned out, they said that one game when Uggla hit a clutch home run, and it just stuck. So as you'll hear in a couple minutes, it was a fun tradition that started in the booth in Fox Sports Florida to say his name is Dan Uggla every time Uggla himself hit a home run for the Marlins. So we're here joined by Rich Waltz, the Marlins TV broadcaster for Fox Sports Florida. You also do ACC football and basketball, correct?
I do a variety of things. I did up until this last year, I did a lot of ACC and SEC sports. But I moved my family back to Seattle. I had lived there up until I was in Florida. So this past year I did CBS College Hoop for CBS Sports Network, and I was in the Pac-12 network. And then I did a handful of games back east as well.
Okay. All right, so I wanted to ask, you've done a lot of traveling around calling sports games, and I want to know what it's like for you traveling with the team and what you kind of do in these cities for fun when you're, I don't know, if you go back to Seattle, do you see family? Do you indulge in the local culture there? What happens?
I mean, you try to. I think that's one of the things that when you travel to a great place like Washington, D.C. or New York or any major league city or even any college town, I think you're doing yourself a disservice if you just stay in the hotel.
Right.
and you got to get your work done. That if it's basketball, you're going to practice. If it's football, you're going to meetings. Baseball, you do your stuff, but then you get out and you do stuff. The other day, we all went to Walter Reed,
yeah, I saw that on Twitter.
and that was it was very, very cool. In New York, there's a million things to do. When we go to Cincinnati, we always get out. I like to run along the river, go to the Montgomery Inn, and do stuff like that in places like that. So I think every city has got its charm, and every city's got its places, and
yeah.
I'm a big believer in getting out and just walking and exploring.
That's awesome. You mentioned living in Seattle for a while. I'm actually going to Seattle this summer to see a couple Mariners games.
You'll like it.
Yeah, so do you have any advice of anything I should do, particularly, especially around the stadium? Anything in particular?
Oh, absolutely. The downtown in Seattle is very walkable, very safe. Pike's Place Market is the tourist place, but it's a cool tourist place. It's not a tourist trap. Go down to the fish market, watch them throw the fish around. Go to the original Starbucks, which is in there. If you like music, go to the Experience Music Project. Paul Allen built it right at the base of the Space Needle.
Oh wow!
There's great music, Pearl Jam, Nirvana. There's such great music history in that city, and the Jimi Hendrix, all of that is celebrated in that. That's a cool place to go. Any place in downtown. Take a ferry ride across the Puget Sound. Go have dinner on the water or something. You'll spend 2 or 3 days just finding all kinds of stuff to do in Seattle.
All right, that's awesome. I want to talk a little bit about Nationals Park here. The Marlins come here 9 times a year. They had a lot of success here in 2008, 2009 when it was first opened. The Nationals had a couple down years, and recently that's kind of switched over, and the Nationals have been dominating here. Do you have any thoughts about kind of the venues where these two teams play, and because they're both relatively young teams? Do you think that the stadiums have anything to do with their success, or anything particular about the Marlins and how they play here?
No, it's all personnel. For whatever reason, Miami played well here and has played well here, even when both teams were down or both teams were 500.
Right.
But last year, the Marlins were a shell of a team. They lost 100 games. They won just 62.
Yeah.
And the Nationals were coming off a postseason.
Yeah.
2012 was somewhat of a disaster for Miami, too.
Yeah.
It was the whole, Ozzie Guillen, high payroll, and that fell apart pretty quickly. So I think the 2 years that Washington has dominated was if you go back, it's 2012, 2013. Right now, I see these teams kind of on an even scale.
Yeah.
What would tip that scale would be the return of Bryce Harper and Ryan Zimmerman, probably.
So you think the Nationals are a more talented team right now than the Marlins?
No, I think right now they would be even with Zimmerman out and Harper
with the two guys back.
With Harper and Zimmerman back in, if you're looking at pure talent, yes. And what hurts Miami certainly is they've lost one of the best pitchers in the game in Jose Fernandez.
Right.
They don't have him every 5 days.
Right, and you mentioned Jose Fernandez, and I heard that the culture in the clubhouse was kind of dismal right after he left, but the Marlins are now only, 2 games back of the Braves. I mean, they're sitting above 500, and they're in a good position in the NL East, which is tight this year. Are feelings looking up since they've had success after Jose Fernandez has gone out?
Yeah, it was a shock, certainly, to the whole organization. But Miami played really well in San Francisco, their last stop on that road trip. They won 2 of 4. They probably should have won 3 or 4. And then they played well here the other night. So look, it's a young team, but it's a much improved team. They've improved the areas where they had absolutely no production last year.
Right.
From third base, first base, catcher. Now suddenly they've got someone to hit in front of and behind Stanton, which makes all the difference in the world. So, I think getting over that whole Jose shock has for them is they're over that. Now the question is, can their young rotation, whether it's Alvarez, Eovaldi, or Kohler or Turner, can all those guys take a step forward and be dependable guys that can get you to the 6th or the 7th inning with every start?
Right. And you mentioned Stanton. In fact, in this park, Stanton's had more success here probably than any other away park he's played in. Have you talked to him? Do you know why he might like hitting here more than anywhere else?
I have talked to him. He just feels comfortable here. There's a couple other parks, the West Coast parks. San Diego, LA, San Francisco, he's had great success too. And I think if he had played as many games in those parks, his numbers would be comparable to here. But he's hit good pitching here. He's hit Strasburg here. He's hit Zimmerman here. It's not like the Nationals don't have a good rotation. Right. They have a very good rotation. So for whatever reason, he feels comfortable here, and he's had some really, really good games here.
All right. One thing I want you to kind of tell a story. Can you explain the tradition when Dan Uggla played for the Marlins? What would happen after he hit a home run? You and Tommy Hutton had this awesome tradition that I just loved listening to. Can you kind of explain that for our listeners?
Well, it started out as I don't have a home run call per se. That started out as a thing of respect. There was an old skit on Saturday Night Live where Eddie Murphy was Gumby. And Gumby went to a party and no one recognized him or no one gave him any respect. And at some point he shouted out, "I am Gumby, damn it." And so when Uggla got to the Marlins in 2006, the Major League Baseball Green Book had a pronunciation guide, and it was not right for him.
Oh, really?
And his name was tough to pronounce anyway. So the first month of the season, nobody would pronounce his name right. PA announcers, other broadcasters, anybody. And we got tired of telling everybody, no, his name is Dan Uggla. His name is Dan Uggla. In the middle of the game, Tommy or I would get up and go into the PA announcer booth. Look, his name is Dan Uggla, right? So it's early May, and Uggla had been having a great year, and he had hit a big home run the night before, and he hits another home run in a key spot. And this is a team, and Uggla's a player that's got an enormous chip on their shoulders because they're expected to lose 120 games and all this.
Right.
And he hits a big home run. It just flew out of my mouth. And it's like, and his name is Dan Uggla. And I wanted to say, damn it, but that probably was smart that I didn't. And it was spontaneous. And then the next night, he hits another home run. And my partner, Tommy Hutton, yelled out, and his name is, and he looked at me like I was supposed to say Dan Uggla. And so I said Dan Uggla, and it just kind of stuck. Fans liked it. And it was all about a guy that was an unknown that came out of nowhere that nobody really had a lot of respect for and played for a team that had a chip on his shoulder, and it stuck. We used it on big home run calls. Like if Miami was down 8-0 and Uggla hit a solo shot, you wouldn't use it because it just didn't fit.
Right.
So that was the genesis of it.
That's awesome. And then even when he was traded to the Braves, I think it was the first time he came back to Miami, he hit a home run. Did you do it just for fun?
Yeah, I think it was more in sarcasm. It was like, well, apparently his name still is Dan Uggla because he can still hit home runs. So.
I'll tell you what, though, when Marlins Park opened, I was not a fan of the home run sculpture. And in fact, on my blog, I put a bounty on it. I said, whatever player hits the home run sculpture in a game first, I'll write a 1,200-word essay about their swing, analyzing their swing and talking about their career. And that was Uggla. I thought it was going to be Stanton, but I'm happy with Uggla because I knew a lot about him. And so I titled the post, his name is Dan Uggla, and it was about 12 or 1,300 words just all about Dan Uggla, and it was so fun to write. So
yeah, I remember that home run. He actually hit the sun.
Right, he hit it right in the middle. And it made a really loud noise.
Yeah, it was perfect for Uggla. It was a great exclamation point on his years in Miami.
I don't know if you're aware, but FP Santangelo, the Nationals color commentator, calls the Marlins on the sculpture the Pinocchio Dolphins because they don't really look like Marlins. They kind of have more of a curve to them. They're like dolphins with a long nose.
Yeah, well, you know what? I think, and you know this, having grown up around that team as a kid, it's a team that still doesn't have a long history. But it's got 2 World Series trophies, and it's gone through a couple of uniform changes.
Yeah.
So it's still rather young compared to, you look at some franchises that have been around since the 1800s. Right. So
well, I got to tell you personally, I like the teal better than the orange. Do you have an opinion on that, or you're not allowed to say, or what?
No, I can say whatever. I mean, I like the teal. I was not a fan of a lot of teal.
Yeah.
But I got to say, I think these uniforms have grown on me. The red, orange, and the black. You know what? It's the major leagues. So I think when you first saw the drawings of the uniform, a lot of people were aghast. But once you saw them on the field, it was like, oh, okay, I get it.
And I'd actually never been to Miami until 2012. I went to the Yankees exhibition before it opened. It was at the end of spring training. And I kind of got it. When I went down there and I saw the lime green walls and I saw the Marlins uniforms for the first time, I was like, oh, is this really necessary? I go down there and just the culture there is so vibrant. It's such a bright city that it makes more sense when you're there.
It is, and that's a lot of broadcasters have said that when they'll come into for the first time to the ballpark, they'll watch a couple of games and then they'll come into the booth and they'll say, you know what? This ballpark really is Miami.
Right.
When we're here, we feel like we're in Miami because you can see the downtown. It has that Art Deco color tile to it. I mean, if you spend any time in downtown Miami or South Beach, it's very similar. It's a modern architecture with that Art Deco feel to it. And that's kind of what they went for with the ballpark.
Yeah. And when you mentioned the changes the Marlins have gone through, one of the things is they've certainly cycled through players a lot more than a historic team like the Yankees or Red Sox. They've had a couple franchise guys like Cabrera, like Stanton now. But is it tough for you as a broadcaster to kind of learn the personalities and learn the tendencies of the new players as they cycle in and out?
No, not really. And I'll tell you, I think that's somewhat of a misnomer. You look at the 06 team, which kind of was a team that was rebuilt from that 03 World Series team. And people think the 03 World Series team was dismantled the next year. It wasn't. The same team was on the field in 04. The same team was on the field in 05 with Carlos Delgado.
Yeah.
So they kept that team together for 2 years. That 06 team was allowed to grow for probably 5-6 years.
They were.
From Hanley to Uggla to JJ to Sanchez to Nolasco. I remember in 2012 we looked around, and the core of that team had been together than most teams in the division, their cores. But yeah, I mean, there's no doubt that the Marlins have not only grown a reputation for, taking a team apart and rebuilding it, but they've had success doing it. I mean, I think what you're seeing in 2014 is a pretty successful rebuild job of what was a disaster in 12 and what was an extremely young roster last year.
Yep.
And I would bet you that there's probably 15 to 17 to 18 general managers in baseball that if they could trade their roster for this roster at this payroll with this youth, they'd do it.
Wow. Yeah, certainly. I've been impressed by guys like Ozuna, Echeverria, who I had never heard of their names until they came up with the Marlins big league team. And they're these young guys, and I mean, they're versatile players. They're exciting to watch, and they certainly have a lot of potential.
Well, and that's I think with Miami, the one thing you have to remember is their prospects come in waves. Their position wave of prospects is here, with Yelich in left, Ozuna in center, Stanton in right. Marisnik is the next. He's in AAA and hot right now. The next wave are arms. Andrew Heaney, the first-round pick out of Oklahoma State. Brian Flynn, the guy that they got in the Tigers trade. Justin Nicolino, the lefty they got in the Blue Jays trade. The next wave of prospects for Miami are arms, and so it's kind of coming in stages for them.
Right.
So it's fun to watch the position players in year two. You know, Yelich in year two, Ozuna in year two, Echeverria in year two. And Dietrich somewhat in year two.
Right.
But I think come June or July, you're going to see a couple new arms up here as well.
Do you want to ask something? Okay. There were 2 draft picks last year that I was interested in. Colin Moran, or the first-round pick as the third baseman, and then Carter Capps. Was he a pick last year also?
Capps came in the trade for Logan Morrison from Seattle.
Oh, gotcha, okay. But he's also a young guy. So those 2 guys are, I mean, I've heard a lot about them in the minor league system. Do you know what the timetable is as for when they're going to be up here with the team?
Well, Capps was, but he's on the disabled list now. You hurt his elbow. And they think it's just a sprain. They're hopeful that it's not anything as serious as Jose. Colin Moran is probably a good 2 years away. He's got to prove that he can hit and produce in single A. I think he's the type of guy that's going to have a good run in single A, get promoted, have a good run in double A, get promoted, and either have some run in triple A before he gets here.
Right.
So I would say with Moran, you're looking at least a couple years.
Okay, that makes sense. All right, Paul, do you want to ask something?
I did want to ask something. Being a diehard Nationals fan and watching the games every day and seeing the Marlins all the time now that since they're in the same division, Stanton's power is just incredible, and especially the home run that he hit straight away center the other day. You get to watch the games every day and call the games, and you see the games on a different level than the fan does. Is there something consistently that's like, I want to see what happens today?
Yeah, I mean, Stanton is a great example. Stanton has the most power in baseball. He has the fastest ball off the bat ever recorded in baseball history. I think of the top 5 exit speeds off the bat this year, he's got 4 of them. Puig has the other. So watching Stanton every day is pretty impressive. Last year was a really tough year. Last year was, you hope Stanton runs into one, but there isn't much else to watch. You're watching young kids get better. This year, it's fun to watch the Ozunas and the Yeliches and the Echeverrias have success. It's fun to see the veterans that they've added to the mix have success. It was great every 5 days to watch Jose pitch last year and this year, and you missed that.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, one of the things that National fans should really appreciate is that day in and day out, that they get to see a really entertaining team. I know Zim's hurt right now, and I know Harper's hurt right now. But this is still a really good team, and it will be a very good team when those 2 guys come back. And your rotation, you got Gio Zimmerman throws tonight, and then you got Strasburg. And Washington's bullpen. We love Washington's bullpen. Tyler Clippard feels like family to us because every Marlins Nationals game, it's not. I always say this on the air. It's not a Marlins Nationals game unless Tyler Clippard throws, and he always throws well. You look at the top three relievers for the Nationals, Clippard, Storen, and Soriano, and their career ERAs against the Marlins aren't just under 2, but they're close to 1, and that's over a big sample size. So. Yeah, look, I get paid to go to ball games, and so every day I get to come to the ballpark and get paid for it. I'm excited about it, and you're right. Baseball is a sport that you see stuff that you've never seen before, and having guys like Stanton or Harper, or Zimmerman, or Fernandez or Strasburg to watch, that makes it even more fun.
All right, something I want to ask. The Marlins went to Panama in spring training this year to play the Yankees. They went to Puerto Rico a couple years back and played the Mets, was it, down there in San Juan. When you've traveled to these places, have you seen an international appeal for baseball in these kind of lowly developed countries? And if there is one, are they Marlins fans because the Marlins are the team going out and doing this, or have you noticed anything?
Well, I can answer that in a couple ways. I did not go to Panama. It was an exhibition game, and we didn't televise.
Oh, okay.
I did go to Puerto Rico, but I had been there before. I've done 2 years of the World Baseball Classic. In 2009, I went to Puerto Rico and had just incredible games with the Netherlands upsetting the Dominican twice. Mm-hmm. And this in 2013, I was in Japan for 3 weeks. I had the first round in the semifinals over there for MLB Network. Saw Cuba, saw Japan, Tanaka, Abreu, just some incredible stars over there. So I think what most fans in the United States don't realize is the incredible appeal of the sport in places like Asia, in places like Puerto Rico, the Dominican. And when you go there and see the importance and the emotion that they put into the sport, it gives you a greater appreciation of this sport on a global sense. Now, there's obviously countries that don't play baseball, but they're starting to play baseball.
Right.
Baseball's spreading to Europe. It's spreading to Italy, and that's why I think teams going to Australia or Puerto Rico or the World Baseball Classic, I think that's very, very important to grow the game.
And we were talking to Dave Jagler kind of about, in America, the appeal for baseball is dwindling among the youth, and that the youth want the exciting sports like basketball and lacrosse. Do you think that the saving grace for baseball might be its appeal internationally? I mean, if in the United States this trend continues where the Little League attendance rates go down and kids just aren't playing baseball as much as they used to.
I was saying, in a sense of that, baseball used to be where a father and a son would come and they would watch the games and they'd bond and they'd talk. But now with smartphones and with everything, the attention span isn't there, that kids sitting on their phones are not exactly, and they're not involved. When you see a 3-hour game and the ball's only in play for 10 to 15 minutes over that 3-hour span,
right,
that attention span isn't exactly there, and that's why kids are drifting more to the higher fast-paced sports.
But I will tell you this, the kids are still here. And I think if you walk into an NBA arena or an NHL arena or an NFL game, there are more kids per capita in a baseball game than there are at those sports.
That's a good point.
A lot of that has to do with economics. The ticket prices are much higher. It's more affordable to bring your family to a baseball game than those other sports. So I think, there was a good article by Tom Verducci on SportsIllustrated.com today about the pace of game. And I'm with them. I wish they would speed the game up. I wish hitters wouldn't walk around after each pitch. Pitchers wouldn't walk around after each pitch. But I think as far as kids go, just the fact that they're here is a plus. Whether they're, talking to dad or not, or whatever, or talking to mom or not, I think that's more in society. I think if you walk into the Cheesecake Factory and look at a family of 4 eating, you'll see the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you'll see mom and dad on their phones too, unfortunately.
Another thing I think in baseball, it's much more doable to kind of have a close, intimate encounter with a player or coach than it is in other sports. Do you think that has an effect?
Yeah, I think players are more accessible. I think the other thing is, Players come in all shapes and sizes, more so in baseball than any other sport.
Yeah.
And players aren't in big uniforms and all that. They got a cap on, just like the kids in the stands do.
That's true. All right, one thing I wanted to ask you on a personal note. I was at Turner Field April 24th, I think it was. It was over spring break for me. The Marlins were there. It was the first game of the series. They lost it on a walk-off home run to Gaddis. But the Braves put me on the kiss cam because I was sitting alone wearing an orange Marlins shirt and my Marlins hat.
You were Mr. Lonely.
Yeah. Did you notice that, or do you know if other teams do that also?
No, I do. Last night we were on Email Tuesday. We were supposed to give 5 things that we felt were underrated in baseball or underrated in life. And one of my underrated was Kiss Cam. I love watching Kiss Cam because something like that's coming up. When we were in Miami, when Morris Lomo was there, in Miami every now and then they'll take a shot, and a lot of ballparks do this. They'll show about 5 or 6 couples kissing, and then they'll show a pair of visiting players.
Right. Yeah.
And Lomo started putting his arm around the guy, and it was really funny. So, no, I'm into Kiss Cam. I think that's fun in every ballpark.
Yeah.
So what's your opinion on our racing presidents?
We love it. That's on our telecasts. One of the things that we try to do is have fun, and we love the presidents. We love the sausages. We love the pierogies. We love all that stuff. We really do. And in Atlanta, the bucket. We show the bucket every night. We love the bucket. Well, you look forward to that. I mean, seriously, we bet on it. We put money on the presidents and the sausages. So, yeah, you got to have fun with it. And I'll stick up for the bucket. I like the way the bucket has the best taunts and dances. It's like we live for that stuff.
That's exciting. One thing I forgot to ask you when we were talking about Dan Uggla, the thing I loved when you guys were in Puerto Rico, you did the Dan Uggla call in Spanish. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I did. I don't know if I got it right or not, but I tried it. So
I think he said "se llama Dan Uggla." It sounds right to me. I took Spanish for a couple of years.
Yes,
but
I did too. So that's as far as I got.
That was exciting, though. All right.
I was just going to ask on a note for Steve and I. We got into doing this. So we were calling the JV baseball games this year at our high school. We sit up on the hill and call the JV baseball games. But from your perspective and being where you are now, being able to watch baseball every day, is there anything you can offer advice for us or what you would do if you were our age again?
Well, when I was your age, I was playing, and I didn't figure I wanted to be a broadcaster until they told me I couldn't play anymore, and that was after college, when I played in college. But, do what you're doing. The broadcasting is not, to me, is not something that you learn best in a classroom or a lecture or whatever. It's doing exactly what you're doing. It's going out and being on the air or putting yourself on tape and then critically listening to it and saying, I need to get better at this. I need to get better at that. And that's how I got here, was doing minor league hockey, baseball, small college football, basketball, and making sure that every time that I did a game, I used it as an opportunity to get better. And you know what? You go into each game, I'm going to improve on this. And the next night, I'm going to improve on this. And so it's like, I always say broadcasting is like riding a bike. You can take a class in riding a bike. You can watch a video in riding a bike. But until you get on that bike and fall on your butt, and then get on your bike and fall on your butt again, you don't know how to ride a bike. And I think it's the same with broadcasting.
Okay.
All right, the final question, as we were talking about the demographics of baseball fans, I just wanted to know, since you've traveled around with the team, have you noticed any particular region of baseball fans that you're most impressed with, that you just find their loyalty or their courage to come out to the ballpark impressive, as opposed to some other team that might not have such loyal fans?
People always talk about St. Louis, but St. Louis fans, to me, wouldn't be as loyal if their team was terrible.
Right.
and their team's been really good for a long, long time.
Yeah.
So they've built that fan base, the organization has, quite nicely. You watch the Cubs, and their attendance is starting to dwindle a little bit. Wrigley Field has been the big draw for the Cubs, through thick and thin, and it's mostly been thin.
Right.
I think for organizations that have been around a long time, they've got generations of fans that have grown up going to those games and supporting those teams.
Yeah.
That's what the Rays don't have. That's what the Diamondbacks don't have. That's what the Marlins don't have. But in 25, 30, 40 years, you'd expect they will.
Yeah.
You'd expect it will be different. So, you know what fans impress me a lot right now is San Francisco. San Francisco's really got it going on. They've won 2 World Series. They've sold out almost 300 consecutive or whatever the number is. That's as cool a place to do a game right now as there is in baseball. 2-3 years ago, it was Philly. Philly was the most electric atmosphere in baseball.
Pittsburgh's fans last year.
Yes.
The playoffs were incredible.
Yeah.
Pittsburgh's got a really nice ballpark to go along with that, though.
Yes, they do. But you know what? They didn't put a lot of people in that really nice ballpark for 15 years when they didn't play so well. So
that's true. All right. Rich Waltz is the TV play-by-play commentator for Fox Sports Florida and the Marlins. Rich, it was a delight to have you on the program. So thanks for joining us on the Top Step.
All right, thank you. Thanks for the invite, and good luck to the Nationals.
Thank you.
And good luck with your podcast. Good luck with your baseball career.
Thank you.
And have hit another home run against Arizona. There goes! There goes number 30! The first second baseman in Major League history to have 4 30-homer seasons, and his name is Dan Uggla.
I'm here sitting alongside Paul. We're sitting at the Red Porch restaurant right now in the center field of Nationals Park. Paul, have you ever eaten here before?
I have not. This is a first time, and there's a first time for everything.
It's the first time for me, too. And I'll tell you what, I go to the Red Porch every week or every time I'm here at Nationals Park for batting practice. And it's like I've said, I've never eaten here, and it'll be an experience. And I think, is that our pizza coming right now? That'll be very exciting if it is. Nope. No, we got faked out.
They swerved us.
They did swerve us. There was a curveball. We're here at Nationals Park, and the Marlins and Nats are kind of playing a series finale. Yesterday's game was rained out. Awful storms came through the D.C. area. Tonight's game threatens to be rain delayed, but the skies are clear for now, and they have been for a while, so hopefully they're going to get this one going.
I gotta say it was a pretty swift move by the Nats last night to postpone this game to later in the season when we got our lineup back. So,
oh, okay.
So if any Nationals executives or whoever makes that decision is listening to this, out of way.
So Jordan Zimmerman is starting tonight for the Nationals. Paul, the last time you and I went to a Jordan Zimmerman game, he was playing the Marlins. It was, September of last year? Do you remember that?
September. I do remember that.
That game ended in 2 hours and 20 minutes.
And it took a no-hitter into the 6th.
Yes.
Middle or?
Thank you. Where?
Oh, Paul! Paul just spilled his entire water all over the Red Porch, and we have it all on video.
Luckily, it was just water.
That's true.
All right,
so we're going to take a dinner break, and we'll come back here on the Top Step. It was an amazing evening at Nationals Park, the Marlins winning 8-5 in extra innings, and of course Paul and I having the privilege to talk to Rich Waltz, the Marlins TV broadcaster, and then Dave Jackler. He'll be featured next episode. He's the Nationals radio guy, so stay looking forward for that. And of course for Paul 93 Freshener, Rich Blue Danube Waltz. Paul doesn't like my puns, but I'm Steve Miller, and this is the Top Step.